none of it was for the benefit of the slaves.
Yes,
in that case.
And I was going to point that out as well, because as we see, Joseph actually allows them to keep 80%
Exactly.
for their family. And in the transatlantic slave trade, there was no ownership. There was really very little income, if
It was no
any
rights.
income.
It was no rights whatsoever.
Yeah, they didn't even consider us
They
black people
dehumanized
human
them.
beings.
Exactly,
right?
they dehumanized
It was 3/5 of a person. So
Exactly.
it was a very different situation.
Yes.
What they considered slavery versus with this. Welcome to our living room. It's your favorite Christian couple. You like that one?
Okay, I'll take it.
It's your favorite Christian couple
The
on
what?
the Carey podcast.
the couple.
Christian couple.
Okay, Christian couple.
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Take
Welcome,
two.
guys.
Oh.
Oh. Huh?
All right, welcome.
Let's try again.
All right. Welcome back to the Carey podcast. It's your favorite Christian couple. I'm Donovan. This is my lovely wife, Tiara.
Hey, guys.
And welcome to episode 34 of the Carey podcast.
Yes.
I think I said Carey podcast already, but y'all used to it by now. You guys know.
The intros are always a little...
The intros and the exits. It's harder than
we
you
do
think.
our best. We're not really true podcasters, for real. We just want to read the Bible.
We just your
That's
favorite
it.
Christian couple. Reading the Bible from beginning to end.
Yes. So today, well, first of all, if you are new here, welcome. Just to kind of give a little background of what we're doing. We're reading the Bible from beginning to the end.
Mm-hmm.
We study separately, then we come together on the couch, and then we just kind of discuss our thoughts and any lessons that we might have gathered from our reading. And we just bring you along for that journey, bring you into our conversation.
Yeah.
If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you guys for coming back.
Yep, don't forget, like, share, subscribe if you like the content.
Yes. And definitely comment throughout, let us know your thoughts. If you have picked up on something that we might have missed, definitely share it, because, we're trying to grow in the word together too.
Absolutely.
And we also invite you to do the same. So
Yeah. So right now we're in the story of Joseph.
Yes.
So if you need to catch up, don't hesitate. Go back to the last episodes.
yes, the last few episodes, but I don't know, I'm feeling led to say this, but if you can, open up your Bible right now with us and let's read this together. I mean, we're not actually reading it. We kind of paraphrasing it a bit, but we are going through it.
Yeah.
Open up your Bible. If you don't have a physical copy, if you have a smartphone, you can download a free Bible app.
You don't even have to download it.
Oh,
Just go to it online.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Just go to it online.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're going through Genesis 46 and 47.
Yes.
So you want to get started with the story? Jump
Yeah.
right in?
Let's jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
So chapter 46 starts with letting us know that when Jacob was on his way to Egypt, because he was basically invited there by his son Joseph, who he thought was dead previously, but now he's fully aware that he's alive.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's on his way to Egypt to meet up with him, to move there, to live there, because there's currently a famine right now. And if they don't, they probably would die of starvation.
Absolutely.
So before he actually got to Egypt, he decided to stop in Beersheba. And you remember Beersheba, Abraham and Isaac actually stayed there for some time. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yes. And for Abraham in Beersheba, he actually planted a tamarisk tree.
Okay.
And that's where he called on the name of the Lord. He worshiped him. And then Isaac, some years later, also went to Beersheba. And there he also built an altar and worshiped God. And God actually gave him some promises there. And he said to him, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham." So,
And that's what he said to Isaac.
That's what he said to Isaac.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, but at that point, he pitched his tent and dug another well. This is when he was digging all the wells, right? But obviously, this is a very special place spiritually where they meet with God. And when Jacob went there, he too built an altar and made some sacrifices to God.
Yeah.
And after that, God actually called on him, right? And he said to him, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make your family into a great nation. I will go with you down to Egypt, and I will bring you back again. You will die in Egypt, but Joseph will be with you till you close your eyes.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting that Jacob did take a moment to pause and worship God before entering into this foreign land. But I also thought it was interesting that he seek direction, seek confirmation from God. Because if we think about it, before God was telling him to go into the land of Canaan, now he's stepping out of the land of Canaan. And I feel like he's trying to make sure I'm in alignment with you.
Yeah.
This is what you want me to do. And God came and gave him that confirmation, along with the things that he was going to do for his descendants, right? He said he was going to make a great nation, which we know, we talked about this in the last episode, that Egypt kind of have this segregated nature, right? They despise Hebrews, and we'll see later they even despise shepherds, right? So with them going to Egypt, this would be a place for the Israelites to be able to grow and multiply so largely while still being distinct and set apart for what God has in store for them.
Yeah, no, and I thought it was interesting because I don't think that we've seen Jacob talk to God since before Joseph.
Yeah.
So to me, that was a very telling thing that to me shows that his, he's back. His faith is back, right?
And I also thought it was interesting that when he did talk to God and he did build those altars and he did make those sacrifices, God showed up.
Yeah.
He answered.
It's true. He'd been waiting on him.
And have you noticed that every time they build an altar, God shows up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time they worship, God is there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was, I don't know, for some reason when I read that, it just hit me and I'm like, he will show up. When you build that altar, I mean, I'm not saying we have to actually build an altar and kill some animals, but when we actually go into worship, we build our own personal altar, he will show up.
Yeah, that's one way to see it. I would almost see it as when we do a sacrifice, right? And not necessarily a burnt sacrifice or killing an animal.
Yes.
But even a sacrifice on our part, whatever that may be, I got to be there to see that as well. And especially because we got to remember, this is the time of famine. So, I mean, I'm not sure what he's sacrificing, but I'm imagining whatever he's sacrificing is probably in few, right? It's not in plenty at this time. So for him to sacrifice it, and we know what God thinks, right? We learned back in the Cain and Abel story how important it is for God when you actually sacrifice something that's important to you, as opposed to just the leftovers.
Right.
Exactly.
And so another thing with what God was telling him, how he will go with him and bring him back, I thought that this was like a double prophecy because I definitely know he was saying like, okay, Egypt is only going to be temporary for you. You will make it back to the promised land. But I feel like he was also speaking to the nation of Israel through Israel.
Yeah.
Like
God I think he was speaking to Israel, not necessarily Jacob.
Exactly.
I mean, both, but yes, more so to Israel. And I think I've seen somewhere else where I felt the same way. That's actually interesting.
Yeah, I feel like he's saying, I'm going to go with y'all to Egypt. You're going to be there for some time, in 400 years in the Israelites' case. And then I will bring you back to the promised land. So I just thought that was, when I read that, because now they're referring to him as Israel.
Yeah.
So now when I read that, I was like, oh no, he's talking to both.
Yeah, it's not just Jacob here.
It's not just Jacob.
Yeah. No, I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I picked that up in this portion, but I did pick up later some references that I heard that to me was a kind of
a double prophecy.
A double prophecy, yeah. So I think that's cool.
Okay, well, I'm interested in seeing what it is because that's the only one I caught. More of the story: Egypt is not a permanent place for Jacob or his descendants. And another thing I love was the fact that God did give Jacob the confirmation that Joseph is alive.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah,
because he just kind of was going off the words of his sons at this point. But then here comes God following behind and saying, no, he is alive.
Yeah.
You will see him and he will close your eyes. He will close your eyes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it did let us know that there was a total of 70 descendants at this point. But he did take all of his sons and their wives and their children, their livestock and herds, and they traveled by the wagons that Pharaoh provided to them. So
66 travelers in total.
Yes.
70 will include Joseph's family.
Yes.
And Joseph.
So in verses 8 to 27, basically talk about the descendants of Israel. And it lists all his sons and all of their sons and even his daughter, Dinah, right?
Yep.
But I just wanted to point out, I'm going to put the chart here somewhere, but I wanted to point out a few of the sons. So we know Judah is
the line of Jesus.
Being the line of Jesus, right? His line will lead to Jesus. So Judah has Perez, remember, one of the twins. Mm-hmm. And then Perez has a son, Hezron, which is what we see on the chart. And through that line is what leads to Jesus.
Yep.
Then we have Levi. And Levi, his descendants are known as the Levites. They're known for the tabernacles and their priestly duties.
Yeah.
So we'll see them later. But through Levi, if we look at Kohath, I think that's how you pronounce it, he has a son named Amram. Amram is the father of Moses and Aaron. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to point that one out, and we'll see that in Exodus. Then last, I want to point out Benjamin. And Benjamin is the last son. Benjamin has quite a few kids.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised. He had 10 kids.
I know. Benjamin was not playing any games. So in Benjamin's lineage, I will see later that King Saul comes under his lineage and is believed to be through Bela lineage. Based on different scriptures, the scholars kind of put it together that it's through his lineage. Yeah. Then also Apostle Paul comes through Benjamin's line. Now, which son exactly is not really sure because the genealogical records were lost during the Babylonian exile. So it's not really
they're not 100%
clear.
Sure.
They're for sure because Paul said it himself that he does come through the Benjamin.
They're for sure come from Benjamin
tribe, but which son? Not sure.
Which son,
Yes. So I just wanted to point that out with this chart here.
Yeah. Yep.
So, okay. So moving forward. So Jacob, before they enter into the land of Egypt, Jacob did send Judah to go meet up with Joseph so they can, lead them to the land of Goshen.
What'd you think of that?
I just thought, again, it was pointing out Judah's leadership here because where's Reuben?
I thought that as well. And I thought I actually came across a few other things as well. So I then thought about how this actually happens a few times in the scriptures where God, I'm going to say God because God is using whoever to send someone to make the way.
Yes.
Right? And so we see that with, you could go to John the Baptist, pretty much making the way for Jesus. You can go into even Jacob himself did that before he met with Esau, right? But one verse that really stood out to me was John 14, 1-3. This is Jesus speaking here. Yeah. And he's saying, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am." Right? In other words, Jesus is also making the way for us in heaven. And so I just thought that was interesting because of the Judah-Jesus connection, that Judah was the one who was sent. But I think it also could be argued that Joseph also made a way, right? Because Joseph prepared the way for them in Egypt. Yeah. So there's just some things I looked at and thought was interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think Judah going to meet with Joseph is symbolizing him preparing the way for that line, right? Just like I feel like the Israelites in a way kind of was preparing the way for Jesus. And then we have Jesus preparing the way for us. Like I just think that there's like a ripple effect that's happening. Right. To basically fulfill God's plan.
Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun. Yeah. I agree. So Joseph meets up with Jacob finally. So he comes on his chariot and meet up with Jacob, and he hugs and weeps with Jacob because this is years of just them missing each other, right? Jacob thinking he's dead for 23 years. Yeah. But Jacob made a statement and said, now I am ready to die, since I have seen your face again and know you are still alive. So he was pretty content with whatever happens next after this point.
Yeah.
So Joseph goes ahead and basically prepare his brothers to meet Pharaoh, right?
He knows
started
exactly
coaching
what's
them.
happen. Yes.
He started coaching them. Listen, tell them you're shepherds.
Yeah.
Your herds is your livelihood here.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that the Egyptians despise shepherds.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what don't they despise? They don't like anybody. This is what it sounds like to me.
See, I saw it as the idea, and I've talked about this in the past, of like this separation of the nomads versus the city builders.
Yeah.
And to me, it kind of fell into that same thing. Oh, we got it today, right?
Like, they probably think they dirty.
That's what I was about to say. We got that today even, like with people from the city and people from more rural areas, right? Like they look at each other different, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Just to bring it back, I know that Joseph knew that the Pharaoh would end up giving them the land of Goshen, which is supposed to be a fertile land. Yep. Exactly. And then also keep them separated from the Egyptian society.
Yeah. I actually thought that was kind of interesting and almost like a parable, right? In the sense of, we know that Jesus is called the great shepherd, right? Mm-hmm. And what's expected of a shepherd is to feed the sheep.
Yeah.
And I think what I found interesting is the fact that the Egyptians essentially don't want to be fed the gospel. They don't want this God.
Yeah.
Right? So they despise shepherds. They find them detestable, is what it says, I think, in the NIV. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting. I also thought that, like you said, with that separation, right, God is also putting Israel in a position where they get to be fruitful in that land without having to actually be mixed in.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not sure 100%, we haven't gotten there yet, but at least the note said that intermarriage is actually what ends up getting them into a lot of trouble, the Israelites. But for now, at this point, we see that they're actually fruitful in this land.
Yes.
And a lot of that is because of their separation. They don't have to deal with the Egyptians, and the Egyptians don't want to deal with them anyway.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So now we're moving into 47, the next chapter. And so Joseph brings 5 of his brothers before Pharaoh. Yeah. And he says to Pharaoh, my father and my brothers have arrived from Canaan. They have come with their flocks and herds. And the Pharaoh asked them their occupation, and they did exactly what Joseph asked them.
Exactly.
They listened, they paid attention, and they followed directions.
I'm pretty sure he took the best 5.
Yes, he did. He said, I know y'all got some sense here.
I'm leaving Simeon and Levi behind.
Y'all staying back. But they did tell him that they were shepherds. So the Pharaoh welcomed them, and he basically gave them permission to have any land, but it looks like they decided on Goshen. Then he also invited the most capable men to be in charge of his herd. So I'm like, oh, he really trusts them. Yeah. Well, really, he trusts Joseph.
Yes.
And it's just like that favor is just trickling down onto them as well.
Yeah. I think I thought was funny is, to me, I would think that most capable would actually be Jacob. But he actually comes in next. But I that's what I was thinking. I'm like, who would be the most capable? I was like, it would have to be Jacob, right? Jacob did that for how long? But they did too. But by himself. Jacob did that by himself, and we know for a fact it don't never say God bless they herds. Yeah, it say God bless Jacob herds for sure.
But Jacob too old at this point.
No, he's too old. I know. I just found that interesting that Jacob would then follow right after.
Yeah. So when Joseph brought his father in, Jacob did bless the Pharaoh twice. He blessed them when he first got there, and then he blessed them after he left. Yeah. But the Pharaoh asked him, how old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers, and the days of their pilgrimage. I just thought it was interesting that Jacob used the term pilgrimage, as if he knew that this life on earth is only temporary. Yeah. I'm going to heaven, because I don't really know if they knew about that at this point. Yeah. They might have. I don't know. That's true. Afterlife. Yes.
That's actually true. That's a really strong point. Because how would they know about that?
Yes. He knew. Hey, I'm just here. I'm just passing through.
Yeah. You know, God has more for me.
Exactly. What are your thoughts about Jacob blessing the Pharaoh twice?
I think it worked. So what I saw was, I guess, the I don't know if parallel is the right term, but the Pharaoh's 2 blessings to me was the equivalent of when later in this chapter, when the Egyptians and Canaanites first give all their money and then later give their land in servitude.
What you mean?
Like that was the enrichment to the Pharaoh.
Oh, okay.
Like, you
so
see what I'm trying to say? Like,
you think him blessing the Pharaoh is what led to the Pharaoh actually gaining all the land, gaining more wealth, should I say? Is what you're saying.
That's kind of what I got from it. So because he blessed them twice, and those guys, they came back twice, right?
Yeah.
That's how I saw it. And remember, these guys are pagans, right?
Yeah.
So like, this is not any of these people are not God's people. Actually, and we'll talk about it later, but God's people actually thrived. And because Pharaoh was blessing God's people, remember what God said to Abraham, those who bless you, I will bless them.
Yeah.
So when I read this, I took it as Jacob's blessing to Pharaoh was actually God's blessing to Pharaoh, which was because he was blessing God's people.
It's interesting that, I didn't even think about it in that way, but when I read it, I saw it as Jacob's spiritual authority is so much higher than the Pharaoh's worldly power, should I say, because we know at this point that Pharaoh is one of the most powerful men on earth, probably at this point.
Absolutely.
So for Jacob to come and bless him twice, I think it really showed. And he accepted it too.
He did accept it.
He didn't turn it down. Mind you, they have their other gods here, right? And even some of the Egyptians probably see the Pharaoh as a god.
Yeah.
So the fact that he accepted the blessing, I think it really just shows or symbolized Jacob's spiritual authority over the Pharaoh's physical authority here.
Yeah. This is also extremely interesting to me because I'm like, why wouldn't the Pharaoh then change his beliefs? You would think, right? Because what Joseph said was going to happen actually happened.
Yeah.
But, I guess they can believe in multiple gods, so maybe they just added our God to their list of gods they believe in. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
I do want to just kind of point out, if we go back in Genesis 12:3, God does tell Jacob, "In you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed."
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, even though we know that he's talking about Jesus, I still think that it applies to Jacob. Right? So him blessing, like you said, him blessing Pharaoh is what led to all the blessings that happened to Pharaoh afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that. That's actually a good callback.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I kind of honed in on was when Jacob explains that he had only a few but difficult years, right? And I thought that was really a lesson in that, because we see that actually a good bit in God's word, right? Like, where a lot of the people who are chosen, they actually have a pretty difficult life, a lot of tribulation, a lot of hardship. And we're reading the story of Joseph literally, and we're seeing that happen to Joseph as well.
Yeah.
As a Christian, I think sometimes we forget about the portion of it, right? We think about the prosperity we're supposed to get and all the great things that's supposed to happen, and all of that is also promise, right? We don't know the timing. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we do know all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. We know that, right? So what I took from this, though, is that it's not going to always be easy, right? We're going to have hard times, and especially if we're Christians today, right? Because there are certain things we just cannot do. We have to separate ourselves from the Egyptians sometimes, right? And that means sometimes you can't go to certain parties. That means sometimes you can't take certain money. That means sometimes you can't do business with certain people, right? And that's a challenge, right? That makes our life even harder, right? And one thing I want to bring us to is John 16:33, right? Where it says, Jesus says, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation." And so we know that in this world, we will have to overcome obstacles. We will have challenges to overcome. And I think one of the big things, it brought me to Revelation 16, verse 9, verse 11, verse 21. And, if you know about Revelation, it's pretty much the end of the world as we know it. And in this time, they call it the Great Tribulation, right? There's a lot of plagues happening. But in verse 9, 11, and 21, those are 3 separate plagues that I won't get into now. But in each of them, it said that instead of repenting, some will blaspheme God, right? And I think that that's just important for us as Christians to...
What you mean, curse him?
Curse him, yeah. Us as Christians, we must remember that even though we go through these hard times, that doesn't mean that God is not with us.
Right.
And we have to be very careful that we remain resilient, remain pretty strong, so that we can stay strong in faith, most importantly, right? So that we're not a part of that number who goes and stops repenting and starts to curse God.
Yes.
Realizing that this is all a part of God's plan. We got to deal with this. This is what it is.
Yes.
And if we're not prepared, and if we don't continue to just prepare ourselves for these hardships mentally and most important spiritually, we could find ourselves with feeling like a victim of God instead of realizing that we're on the same side as God.
Yes.
He's just, we always say, he's pruning, right? He's building us up, building our faith. So essentially, we just need to stay strong and stay faithful. Regardless of the challenges and tribulation we may be facing on this earth.
Yes. Amen to that. So Joseph, he settles his brothers and his father in the land of Goshen, and he provides them with land and food or anything that they needed, right? He took care of all their needs. So as the famine intensified, Joseph continued to manage the food supply, the grain supply, in order and fairness, basically. So it got so bad to the point where the people started to exchange money, their lands, their livestock, and even themselves, right? They even sold themselves into slavery. And in exchange, Joseph did give them seeds for them to grow their own harvest, grow their own food and harvest their own food. And then he decreed that they pay 20% on tax and they just keep the 80%. Right? And so under the Joseph administration, the Pharaoh did end up gaining more land, more wealth. He became even more powerful, except the land of the priests, because apparently he
allotted them land or whatever, so they didn't need to.
They didn't need to, exactly. So my question is, did you have any thoughts about that?
I did. Number one, I think it proves something that we said in our very first episode, that the way we view slavery today is very different than what slavery was in the Bible. So this is the first time we're really hearing of slavery in the Bible. And what we're seeing is that slavery, I know in our first episode we talked about the fact that God said you cannot kidnap. Right? So the transatlantic slave trade, I think, is the most fresh, at least us in America, that we think about when we think of slavery. And the thing about that is they kidnapped people from their land and brought them to the West.
Which is different than what we're seeing here, because here, back in that time, they volunteered, right, for survival reasons here. They're doing it in exchange to be fed. Versus with the transatlantic slavery, in the more modern time, should I say, they, like you said, were kidnapped. They were brutally taken and treated, and, none of it was for the benefit of the slaves in that case.
And I was going to point that out as well, because as we see, Joseph actually allows them to keep 80%.
Exactly.
For their family. And in the transatlantic slave trade, there was no ownership. There was really very little income, if
it was no
any
rights.
income.
It was no rights whatsoever.
Yeah, they didn't even consider us
they
black people
dehumanized
human
them.
beings.
Exactly,
right?
they dehumanized
them. 3/5 of a person. So
exactly.
It was a very different situation. What they considered slavery versus with this.
I saw this more as like a famine relief system, where this obviously is to help preserve them, to help them survive this famine here, where even they said in verse 25, you have saved our lives. Versus the transatlantic slavery, it was more of an exploitative economic system where it was fueled by greed and racism. Versus this, of course, it's not that. That's not the case.
Free labor, essentially.
Free labor, exactly. So the transatlantic slavery was about domination and power, really, versus in Joseph's case, it was to help the people survive. And that was common in that time for people to
sell themselves. They're selling their service. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I read it, I was like, this is to me no different than us getting a job.
I said the same thing.
I'm like, this just sounds like a job.
Yes.
Right. And I'm thinking because.
And paying taxes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I literally wrote down a 20% tax.
Yes.
Right. I think it was just so uncommon for people to. It seemed like it wasn't that common for people to work in this manner. Mm-hmm. So they would consider it servitude.
Right.
But it seems like today it's so commonplace that we would look at it and just be like, this is just a job. Like it is literally.
But a job is servitude.
A job is servitude. I know. Mm-hmm. But it's we would hate to call it that. Right.
Yes.
You know.
And I mean, to be fair, we buy this land that we live on. However, we don't fully own it. And the reason why I say that is if you start paying your property taxes,
they'll take it.
They'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So it's really not too far off. But more of the story is there is a difference between the two, between the transatlantic slavery and then what we're seeing here with the slavery with the Pharaoh, because technically it is under the Pharaoh's reign here. Joseph is just in charge of it. But there's a difference in morality and the motive, basically, behind it. So meanwhile, the Israelites, they started to flourish in the land of Goshen, which is fulfilling what God said to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it mentioned that Jacob lived for 17 additional years after meeting back up with Joseph, which I thought was interesting because it's the same amount of time that he spent with him before Joseph went into slavery. Remember, he went into slavery at 17 years old. Yeah. And then now God had given him another additional 17 years with him before he actually passed away.
That's a good
so I
point.
just thought that was very interesting. It's as if like, even though he didn't make up the full 23 years, he still was able to make up majority of that time.
23 years.
23 years, but that Joseph was gone.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I was looking at because one thing that stood out to me was if the Egyptians hated shepherds, that mean they probably didn't have it or had very few. And I thought about it because everybody had to give their livestock to the Pharaoh. And Pharaoh earlier in the chapter says, hey, if you got somebody capable, I want them to watch my livestock. And the point I'm making is it probably was a very good time to be a shepherd, right? As much as they hated and despised shepherds, shepherds got a lot of work now because the Pharaoh owns all of this livestock and has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, so just thought that
is true. I guess I didn't think about the fact that he done acquired all his livestock and was like, okay, well, who gonna watch him now?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I figured, I'm like, oh, that to me is why they probably were so fruitful because now they're doing good.
Yeah, definitely. So after Jacob's life neared its end, he did make Joseph put that hand under the thigh. Yeah. Like Abraham made Eliezer do.
Oh, Eliezer
to find Isaac's wife. So he put the hand under his thigh and made him promise that he will, after his death, take Jacob back to the land of Canaan to bury him. And Joseph did agree. But I thought it was interesting because we know that they're obviously flourishing. They're doing very well. They're prospering in the land of Egypt right now. Yet Jacob's heart was still anchored in God's covenant that he had with him. And I thought that was a lesson in itself, where we may be in this world, right? AKA Egypt, in this case, if we're going to compare the two. Our journey here is only temporary, as we know. This time that we're here is the time for us to prepare for our true home. Yeah. And our true home will be with God. But I think that our hearts should be fixed like Jacob on where we are going, which we know our permanent home is heaven with God. So
yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And one thing I would piggyback off of that is Joseph, right? When Joseph, we talked about this, but when Joseph had his kids, though he also was thriving in Egypt, he still remembered God, right? He still named his kids in reference to God, you know, his God, not the pagan gods. And so, I can't agree more. So, I mean, that's all I got for this episode. How about you?
Same.
Yeah,
it was, even though we did 2 chapters, it felt pretty short.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so I'm pretty I'm pretty excited to come to an end.
Of Genesis, you talking about?
Genesis.
Yeah, we're closing out. We got 3 chapters left.
There, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Joseph's story is kind of long.
Yeah, only took 34 episodes.
I know, right? So we're almost there. Genesis is almost one of the it might be like the second longest.
I think it's the second longest
book of the Bible here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
On word count.
Word count, yes.
I can't remember the first one.
Is it Psalms?
I don't think it was Psalms. I looked it up. No, Genesis wasn't second. Exodus was second. No.
Genesis is second.
Genesis was second. Exodus came after Genesis, I think.
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but I want to say it's Psalms.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Because Psalms
got so many chapters. But a lot of the chapters are pretty short, too.
Yeah, it is short. And some are long.
Yeah, some are long. So.
That would be very interesting when we reach there. But
yeah,
it was another good chapter.
Few lessons there. Lessons there. I mean, I think Joseph's story as a whole is just a very interesting one.
Yeah.
A lot going on. But I think one of the bigger things is we're seeing how Israel ends up in Egypt.
Yes.
Right? And I know...
I didn't know how exactly they ended up there.
Me neither. I actually had no clue how they ended up there. I knew that by the time we get to Moses, Egypt enslaved them. But how we got there, I actually have no clue.
Yeah, I didn't know before. But yes, so we see here, Joseph invited them.
Yes.
Joseph invited them.
And God told him to go.
And God said go.
Yeah.
Because it was a part of his plan.
It was a part of his plan. Yes. I think, too, one thing I see that I'm curious to look at is some of the comparisons. Mm-hmm. Like we were able to kind of compare and contrast servitude here from the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes.
But what I am curious to see, as the Bible does say, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
How does this end up happening where the Israelites end up being enslaved? Because right now they're not, and they're fruitful.
Yeah.
And I want to see that progression.
Yeah.
Or hopefully we get an idea of that progression.
Yes.
Because it may also give us some insight on things we should look out for.
Yeah.
Things that may be happening around us. A lot of crazy things happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, hey, are we in alignment? Are we doing the right thing? Are we falling into the same traps? Yeah. We always talk about the trap of idolatry, which we see happening more and more, even under the guise of what people are calling Christianity, which really isn't. So I think to see this, I think should be interesting. I'm very excited about what we see into Exodus. Yeah. So with that being said, once again, like, share, subscribe, and comment. If you have something to say, I mean, maybe you have more insight than we do. Maybe you read the chapter and got something completely different.
Yes.
Feel free, comment. We love to respond to the comments, and you know, we'd like to hear you out.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we could wrap this one up.
So next week, we'll be going over 48 to 49.
Yeah.
Possibly 50. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, you'll find out when you start the episode.
Yes. So definitely read ahead and join in on our conversation.
Absolutely. So if there's nothing else, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, well, we'll see you next week.
Have a good one, y'all.